stop fucking ignoring yourself. Oh my God. Why do you ignore yourself so much? Literally, you'll have a thought and then you just fucking argue with it. You'll have a thought, you'll put it down. You'll have a need, you'll have an emotion, you'll tell yourself that's stupid. You'll be like, nah. Or even worse, there's a little part of you that like doesn't agree with it. Or maybe your conscious self or your adult self or your ego self is like, that's stupid, or that doesn't really apply here, or like, yeah, I guess. Like, and then you fucking argue with yourself and you put the thought down instead of just accepting the fact that that's how you feel and that's what you think right now and that's okay. But instead, you ignore yourself and you put yourself down for it by engaging in these little negative thought cycles, these little negative thought spirals, and then you don't support yourself. You don't create an internal safe environment to regulate your emotions and deal with whatever it is that you're experiencing, thinking, or feeling, and you just put it all off, you put it all down, and what ends up happening is you ignore your own basic needs without even fucking noticing it. Why would you do that? Why would you do that to yourself? I know you're not doing it on purpose. And I know that because I've been doing it for so fucking long and I wasn't doing it on purpose either. It took me so long to even realize that I was doing it, okay? And I'm going to walk you through exactly how to stop ignoring yourself and how to start meeting your own basic needs and stop putting yourself off and putting yourself down, okay? The concept of truly loving yourself and coming home to yourself, centering your soul, it all comes back to self-love, which is the basic ability to prioritize yourself first, no matter what, and genuinely, fully, and completely accept yourself judgment free. The second you start judging yourself, you are taking it way too far. It's gone over the top. You're not actually helping. A lot of the time we judge ourselves and self-criticize because we're literally like, oh, okay, well, that will help us to not think this anymore. Or that thought was stupid and I don't want to feel that way. And so we judge and self-criticize because we think we're like teaching ourselves something or preventing ourselves from aligning, thinking, or feeling something that doesn't fully resonate. But the thing is if you're thinking it and if you're feeling it, it resonates with a part of you and you can't just put that off and pretend like it's not real. Okay, you can shove it down, but that's not helping anyone. So stop doing that. So to teach you how to stop ignoring yourself and start prioritizing yourself, I'm going to tell you the little journey that I've gone on and the different things that will come into my head throughout the day so that you can better understand what this looks like and how to approach it, because this can be very confusing. So step one is stop ignoring yourself and start accepting yourself, okay? This is by far the hardest part. I basically spent weeks just focused on this simple acceptance part, okay? Because it's so important and it's so vital to this process. So self-acceptance starts when you start paying attention to the thoughts in your head. Good, bad, ugly, nice, whatever. Anything that you think, start noticing it, okay? And a really, really helpful tip with this is to start separating yourself from your thoughts, okay? So you might have a thought that says, I miss my ex. And you're like, okay, that's stupid because I actually don't. I broke up with them for a reason, or maybe they weren't good for me, or maybe they cheated on me, whatever it is, right? But a little thought in your head goes, I miss my ex. And immediately you're like, well, that's stupid. No, I don't. Because you know that consciously you don't miss that person. Maybe you miss the relationship, or maybe you miss something about them, or maybe you miss something that they did for you, or an experience that you had. Maybe you just miss living with someone, whatever it is, right? So your brain goes, I miss my ex. And you go, no, I don't. Boom, you just fucked yourself. Why are you dismissing your thoughts? Because you think they're stupid. Why do you think they're stupid? Because your ego is acting out. Your ego is judging your thoughts and telling you that they're stupid. But if you were to take ego out of it, which is so fucking painful to do because you were having thoughts that do not resonate with you. You were having thoughts that don't resonate with your highest timeline. They don't resonate with your most healed, mature self, right? So ego wants to judge it and dismiss it and push it down. But that is ignoring yourself. It's not helping you. It's not doing you any favors. It's actually making everything worse. And if you would just accept these thoughts and let them flow, they would actually eventually stop. But because you continue to fight them, they continue to happen. And then you end up in constant thought cycles with yourself. This is how we all end up victim to our own brain. There's so much things going on in our brain that we don't understand, that we can't control, that we don't like. But if we would just stop for a second and let them pass through, we'd be done. We'd be golden. We wouldn't have to come back to them. So, I miss my ex. No, I don't. Okay, don't do that. Don't know I don't that. Instead, say, interesting. A part of me feels as though I miss my ex right now. That's okay. That is an okay part of my experience. It's okay that a part of me feels that way. So okaying it is like accepting it. Validating it is actually creating space for it to flow through you. So step 2 is validate it. Of course I miss my ex. Who wouldn't miss their ex? That was someone that was very, very important to me. It makes complete sense that I miss them. That was someone who was a part of my life daily. That was someone who I used to speak to every single day. It makes sense that there's maybe a little gap in my life that's not being filled, and it makes sense that maybe I would miss that person. That's okay. We don't need to judge that and just validate it in that way. So we accept, we okay it, and then we validate it. Seriously, try this. It starts to flow through you. It starts to just evaporate because it doesn't need to push its way to the surface to be recognized and validated because you've already fucking done it. You're like, okay, yeah, part of me misses my ex. And okay, sure. Yeah, that's okay. I can do that. And suddenly the emotions are 10 times lesser. They're not as strong because they are not needing to bubble over. Another example of this, let's say that you struggle with eating your feelings, okay? And you tend to eat a lot of food. Now, you've already eaten plenty of food today. You know that your body is satiated and you've eaten what you need and you're within healthy margins, whatever. And something emotional happens, and your immediate response is to open the fridge. Instead of saying to yourself, that's stupid, you're not hungry, you've already had enough food, what if you said, interesting, I'm experiencing hunger again. Okay, that's fascinating. And just allow it to be what it is. And then maybe zoom out a little bit and think to yourself, oh, well, of course I'm experiencing hunger again. I just experienced something emotional, and food is a safe thing for me that tends to make me feel better. So maybe I'm actually not even hungry. Maybe I'm actually hungry for comfort. All of the sudden, you have validated the way that you feel. You've accepted it instead of judging it, and you've begun to understand it a little bit better. And from there, with both of these examples, if you realize, oh, I don't actually miss my ex, oh, I'm not actually hungry, your conscious brain knows that, but when your ego shoves down the original thought by saying, I don't miss my ex, I'm not hungry, you're just invalidating it, and you're going to make that shit bubble up 10 times stronger because you're not processing through it. But instead, to be like, oh, well, it makes sense that I would miss my ex today because I'm feeling lonely and maybe I really just need someone to talk to. Or I had a really hard day and I could really use a hug and my ex was always there for that. So then you start to recognize it and you start to cycle through it and understand it better without actually shutting it down and fighting yourself. So the worst thing that you can do for yourself is say, I'm not hungry. I already ate. It doesn't make sense that I'm hungry. I don't miss my ex. They were mean to me. Don't argue with yourself. You're not helping anyone. You're not actually doing yourself any favors, okay? So starting with self-acceptance is the first way to stop ignoring yourself. Then validate and understand it. Now, here's a really cool tool for this, okay? You can do what I call like the zoom out method, where you become the observer of your thoughts. This is not a new method. I'm sure you're extremely familiar with this, or you've at least heard it before. The zoom out method is where you just become the observer. So instead of saying, I'm hungry, I miss my ex, you can say, missing someone is a part of my experience right now, but it's not my entire experience, or maybe it's not who I am. It's just how a part of me feels. Maybe instead of I'm hungry, it's a part of me is experiencing hunger right now because it's lacking in something else. And that's okay. I choose to love and accept myself anyways. I choose not to judge myself for that because of course I would be hungry after what just happened. Now for the zoom out method, you can actually close your eyes and imagine the emotion and imagine yourself as two separate things. And you can sort of see them like on opposite ends of a room sitting in their own chairs. And you can see them as two separate things and they can engage with each other. You can talk to the emotion, etc., etc., etc. You can also view your thoughts or emotions as like little sticks floating down a stream. And so every time that you have a thought that you don't fully resonate with, like I miss my ex or I'm hungry, whatever, you can imagine yourself picking up a stick, and that's the thought, I miss my ex, okay? Now drop it into the river and watch it float down the stream. And there it goes. Okay, we didn't need to snap the stick in half or throw it behind us or light it on fire. We can just let it flow, let it go, and it will, sure enough, go away. One thing that my therapist taught me is that you can also imagine like little thought bubbles, a little cloud, right? It goes in one ear, it passes through your brain, you see it, you observe it, and then it goes out the other ear. There's no reason to latch onto things that you don't resonate with, but to shove it down, okay, well, how's it supposed to exit now, bro? Like, it's stuck inside of you. You just made it 10 times worse by fighting it. Just let it flow through. Ego is the only part of you that doesn't like it. And the ego does not need to run your life. So, one more technique I'll share with you, and I don't know if I'll be able to explain this very well because I'm a very like physical, energetic person. So, maybe this resonates with you, or maybe you're like, girl, what the fuck are you talking about? But let's try it. So, I do this thing where when I feel an emotion coming up that I maybe don't like, or that I maybe don't resonate with, or that maybe only a part of me feels, I will allow myself to feel the place in my body where it's happening. And I'll close my eyes and I will start to feel into my body. Sort of like I imagine myself going from in my head to dropping into my body. And I'm like, okay, how does it feel in my physical body? That's an interesting sensation. And then I will separate my brain and my body. I'm not sure how I learned how to do this. And some of you will hear this and you'll think, oh my God, I can totally do that. And others will hear this and be like, what the fuck? That doesn't even make sense. If you're one of those people, just ignore it. It's not for you. If it makes sense, congratulations, try it. You're weird like me, okay? But I will imagine a part of me drops into my body, a part of me is in my head, and I imagine them literally separating and energetically. And then I can feel these two parts of me and I can feel them separately on one side or of the, I don't know, one side of the imagination cube where I live here. I can feel in the physical body. And then on another side, I can feel in my brain. And it's two different things going on. And suddenly, instead of them being aligned and making me panic and freak out, they're two separate things that are unrelated. And I can just observe them both. Okay. So for me, stepping into the observer position works really well when I step out of my brain and into my body, or out of my body and into my brain, but you're not ignoring either. You're just experiencing them separately instead of experiencing them together. Because for me, what triggers panic attacks and spirals is to experience my brain and my body together in a negative capacity. If I'm experiencing something that triggers me or that I really don't like or that is painful emotionally, and then I start to experience that in my physical body. Now I have emotional pain and physical pain, and I'm starting to panic. I'm starting to freak out. I'm going to cry. I'm going to hyperventilate. Like, God knows what's going to happen next. Oh my God, someone save me. And it's like, okay, take a deep breath and separate. Your brain and your body are two different things. That's okay. They don't have to be on the same track. And then I'm like, oh, and my body starts to just unclench. So if that makes sense to you, you can use it. If it doesn't, use the clouds going in one ear, out the other. Use the rocks going down, not the rocks, the sticks going down the stream, or simply the conscious, the conscious like vocal aspect of like notice and then comment. Like, notice a thought. Oh, that's interesting. A part of me feels that way. Okay. Cool. I also saw this TikTok and I just literally paused the recording to see if I could find it so I could credit the guy who made it because it was so good and I cannot find the TikTok anywhere. But essentially, he was like, you notice an emotion coming on that isn't like in alignment, it's not serving you, you don't like it, whatever. You notice a scary emotion coming on, essentially was the premise. And instead of fighting it, you accept it. And it basically happens something like this, like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And instead of being like, what? Oh my God, fuck, and like engaging with the scary emotion, you go, okay. And then the emotion is like, okay, because the part of you that's emotional is like, this is not okay. And you just say, okay. And then the emotion says, okay, 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 okay. Okay. And it like starts to balance itself out because the emotional part of you starts to realize that it's safe to have the emotion. But when we're constantly telling ourselves that it's not safe to have the emotion, we're essentially telling the emotion that it's not welcome here. And we're also scaring ourselves into thinking that it's 10 times worse than it really is. So once we accept it and we're like, okay, the emotion's like, okay, like I can be here. And we're like, yeah. And the emotion goes, okay. And then you check in. You go, okay. And the emotion's like, okay. and it balances, it regulates. So that's a really, really good tip for not ignoring yourself and just allow it to be okay. It's so much of this goes into allowing the emotion to be okay and just accepting it and observing it as interesting. Like, oh, interesting. I'm having a thought that I don't like. Okay, that's what's happening right now. Go ahead, try to fight your reality. It doesn't work. I know it doesn't work. Trust me, I'm the queen of fighting reality. It does not work. It does not work. It's one unhappy, miserable life. So instead of fighting it, start accepting it. Start saying it's interesting. Start being like, okay. Okay, so accept it and observe it. Those are our two really, really, really big tips for any thought that enters your head. And this is where I started. I simply accepted and observed everything until it got to a point where I realized that I was accepting and observing more things than I was fighting. And that was a freeing moment because I've been fighting my brain for years, okay? Once I got there, then I started feeling pretty good. I was like, all right, okay. And again, I did this for a couple weeks and I was like, all right, okay, I'm doing great. I'm accepting my emotions. I'm going with them. I'm not a victim to them anymore. Like I feel free. I'm not suffering. This is great. And I moved on to something else. And then I realized I wasn't done because what happened was I started accepting and allowing and engaging with the emotions that I was consciously fighting on a daily basis. But what I never did was go to the even deeper ones, like the next layer, okay? You have multiple layers of thought. You have like your conscious thought field where you're just thinking of things that you are thinking of every day and you're totally aware that you're having these thoughts. Then you have like your second layer thought field. So your first layer is the conscious thoughts, okay? Your second layer is like the little bit less conscious. They're happening underneath the conscious thoughts. I like to see it like conscious thoughts on top and then second layers underneath. Those are also conscious. You know they're happening and you're engaging with them. They're all kind of happening same. And then you have your third layer underneath, which is like more subconscious, but it's not the subconscious mind because you don't actually consciously hear it at all. These ones are very small. They're very tiny little thoughts that go by that are like under the surface. You don't really notice them unless you learn how to pay attention to them and learn how to tune into them. And then there's a fourth layer that's damn near impossible to hear. But again, you can tune into it. And then underneath that, you have your subconscious thoughts that like you're never going to hear because it's your subconscious. That's how the subconscious mind works. That's the part of your brain that is beating your heart and telling you when to breathe. You are never going to hear that part of your brain. You don't need to, okay? But that part of your brain is listening to all these other 4 fucking layers that you do have control over. You just have to learn how to tune in and hear them, okay? So the top thought field, the first one, is the one I was just talking about, where these things come in, you have this thought, I miss my ex, I'm hungry, whatever it is, and you hate it and you argue with it. All that's happening on this first layer. The second layer is usually judging these. So then the second layer comes in and starts placing judgments on these thoughts and on your response to these thoughts. Maybe that layer is simultaneously, while you argue with the first layer on layer 1, layer 2 is simultaneously going, I wonder if it's actually productive to argue with this layer. And then layer 3 is going, yeah, that's what's wrong with you because you can't fucking listen to yourself. And then layer 4 is going, and that's why you'll never love yourself. And they're all just these teeny tiny little things that are happening in the background that you seriously can't hear because there's these 4 different voices going on and you're engaging with 2 to 3 of them. Number 3 and number 4 are also happening in the background that you're not hearing, even though you could if you really tuned into it. It's wild. Once I started tuning into all these layers, I started realizing what was really going on, and it was a lot of shit talk. And I was like, geez, this needs to stop. Like, why am I being so mean to myself? Because I would, on the conscious layer, be like, I need to be nicer to myself. And then layer number 2 would be like, yeah, okay, best of luck. Like you could, but you're never going to master it. And then layer 3 would be like, see, you're doing it right now. And layer 4 would be like, you're trying, but you're not trying hard enough and it's not good enough. And all of these are yelling at each other. Well, I'm sitting here going, I want to be nicer to myself. And here's what I'm going to do. Layer 4 is going, that's not good enough. And I'm like, geez. So that will all be happening inside your brain without you even knowing it. And it's all sending signals to the subconscious brain, which is then building beliefs and subconscious programs that you can't even hear. So stopping this is super fucking important. And it seriously is like step number 1 to self-love is this acceptance. Okay. When you don't accept a thought that happens, all 4 of these layers start arguing with each other. They start shit talking. One of them is saying that you're not doing good enough. One of them is saying that the original thought isn't good enough or isn't aligned. One of them is judging the original thought. Maybe one of them is saying that as hard as you try, you'll never be able to accept yourself. Another one is taking your original thought and using it to prove that you're not as healed and mature as you thought you were, or whatever it is. So as these all happen, it's literally creating more drama and it's creating more issues in your mind than if you were to just say, okay, I'm having a thought that I don't like. Okay, another massive tip here is the simple fact that you will have thoughts that you don't like. You will have emotions that you hate. You'll be crying, screaming, throwing up, and being like, how the fuck am I supposed to accept this? I'm not happy. You will have thoughts and feelings that you hate, and you have to learn how to accept those. I'm going to tell you a little example here. I was literally on the floor, crying, screaming, not throwing up, but I damn near wanted to. Fucking nauseous, hyperventilating. I am not okay. I am suffering. I am emotional. My stomach feels like it's gonna eat itself. I am sobbing. And I know that the best way through this is emotional regulation and emotional acceptance. I'm dysregulated and I need to get regulated. And I know that I need to accept myself instead of fighting how I feel, okay? How are you supposed to accept yourself when you're having an emotional response that you don't like or that you don't resonate with? On the floor, clutching your stomach, screaming, crying, and trying to accept your emotions and your reality for what it is right now. It's okay that I'm crying. It's okay that I'm hyperventilating. It's okay that I'm in pain. I accept the fact that this is how I feel right now. No, I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. And you will probably struggle with the same thing, so I'm going to share my story with you. I could not figure out how to accept a reality that I did not like. Because you know me, I'm like, we control our reality. We have so much power over our brain. So I was like, how am I supposed to accept the fact that I am feeling a way that I hate? How am I supposed to accept the fact that I'm crying, that I feel like my stomach is going to eat itself? How am I supposed to accept the fact that I'm unhappy and that my ego is fighting me and just be like, it's okay? How am I supposed to find acceptance in the fact that I fucking hate this? And I started to realize that that's where the acceptance was. Accepting the fact that I can't accept this. Accepting the fact that I will never be okay with not being okay to this capacity. And once I started accepting that I was not okay with how I felt, I started to feel better. What people don't realize is that resistance is oftentimes the key problem that you're facing. In that moment, I was resisting the fact that I was emotional. And then I was resisting the fact that I couldn't accept it. So then I was like, what would happen if I just accepted the fact that I'm not going to accept this? Suddenly, the resistance stopped and I was able to move through it. So when you find yourself in a place where you're like, fuck this, I am never going to accept this emotion. I'm not okay with this reality. I'm not okay with with the fact that I have these thoughts. I'm not okay with this. Great. Accept the fact that it won't be accepted. Because once you start trying to force yourself into accepting something that you can't. You can't get through that. You're just creating more resistance, more turmoil, more pain for yourself. So sometimes it really does come down to accepting the fact that you can't accept it. And that's okay. Acceptance. Yeah. Okay, so we have acceptance and we have observing the thoughts. Those are the two big key indicators. The next deal is that third and fourth layer of the brain that's going on, and that's what I was ignoring. I got through these big ones and then I was like, yay, I'm done. Spoiler alert, I was not done. These next layers go on in the background without you even knowing them. So I might be having a thought or judging myself or having an emotion, and then I'm like, wait, hold on, we can accept that. It's okay, great. And then there's this teeny tiny little voice in the back of my head that I can barely hear that's disagreeing. Or there's a teeny tiny little voice in the back of my head during my day that's going, that wasn't good enough. Maybe I come home with the mail, I set it on the counter, and then this little voice in my head goes, you're never going to get to that stack. You're never going to pay those bills. You should do that right now. I don't have time to do it right now. I'm about to walk out the door. I've got something to do. And that little voice in my brain is like judging me for the fact that I set down the bills instead of paying them. Or I make myself food and then I put the bowl in the sink instead of in the dishwasher. And my brain goes, I'll take care of this later. And then this teeny tiny little third or fourth layer thought in my brain goes, you're never going to clean that bowl. Not good enough. You should just clean it right now. All these teeny tiny little thoughts happening under the surface of my conscious thought, which was, I'm going to set this here, let it soak, take care of it in an hour. I plan on doing that. But there's this little program underneath that says, I'm not good enough, or I'll forget, or that's lazy. And it's happening under the conscious thoughts. So the first layer of this is that acceptance and that observation of the conscious thoughts. The second step to this is starting to tune in and hear the more unconscious thoughts of the third and fourth layer that are quietly, very quietly placing judgment on the things that you do and on the things that you think. So for example, I can have an emotion that I used to be in resistance to, and I can have acceptance and observation for it. I can even hold space for it and experience it on an appropriate level. But sometimes that third or fourth layer thought still comes in and goes, I can't believe you're still dealing with this. Or it goes, you're not really as far into your healing as you thought you were, right? And it's like, fuck, dude. Like, I thought I was done with these thoughts. You're not. You got to access that third or fourth layer. So what do you do with that third or fourth layer thought? You're going to keep doing the same thing. They're so easy to ignore because they're so minuscule, they're so quiet, and they're so under the surface, and it's not your first few layers of thoughts, so you don't really identify with them, but they're still happening, and you need to get a handle on those. So start tuning into those. Once your conscious thoughts are nice and aligned, then start tuning into the lesser of the conscious thoughts and hearing those and catching them, being like, hey, wait, that wasn't productive, okay? Now here's the big thing. Don't judge yourself for these thoughts. That doesn't help. That's counterproductive. Instead, say to your brain, that's not a productive thought. Can we replace it with this one instead? Great. Moving on. Or you can say, I accept the fact that a part of me is still judging myself. Okay, there we go. Don't argue with yourself. Don't bully yourself. That's not helpful. That's a really big part of how the issue started, right? Okay, so now going deeper into the stop fucking ignoring yourself genre that we're on. When you have little thoughts, feelings, emotions that you don't understand, it is very, very common to be like, okay, and then move on. But that is ignoring yourself. What if instead you actually took the time to get to the bottom of it? So for example, I've been having a thought recently that I realized I was ignoring, okay? And the thought goes something along the lines of, I'm lonely. And then I think to myself, well, you were just with your sister and you were just on FaceTime and you saw this person yesterday and you saw that person a couple hours ago, and tomorrow you're doing this, and I'm not really lonely because I have me, myself, and I'm my own best friend. And then also, like, I could just call someone if I'm really lonely. What did I just do? Anyone catch that? I invalidated and argued with the thought. Because it didn't make conscious sense to me, I decided to argue with it. But what if I accepted the fact that, like, oh, a part of me is lonely right now, and that's okay, I don't need to fix that? What if I accepted and acknowledged the fact that maybe that's my inner child? Maybe that is a part of my adult self right now. Maybe that's the part of me that's still grieving the fact that I had a relationship that ended 9 months ago. Who knows? That's part of the beauty of it, is you don't know what it is, and yet you're not going to fight it, okay? Now, I have also been thinking to myself when I have that thought, man, I really want to understand why. I really want to understand why I feel that so deeply and so consistently when I'm surrounded by love and people. Because in factuality, I'm not alone, yet I'm experiencing feelings of loneliness. And then I don't do any more math. That's it. That's it. That's all I do. That is a perfect example of ignoring yourself. So stop fucking ignoring yourself. When you notice shit, what if I were to sit down and take the time to journal about what that feeling feels like? When was the last time I remember feeling that? What triggered that emotion today? How do I feel about the fact that that's what the trigger was? How do I feel about the fact that the first time I felt that emotion, I was 3 years old or whatever, right? And to really dive deep and then ask myself, how would I feel if I got that thing that I want? Whatever that thing is that I think is going to give me this emotion or fulfill this hole, what if I got that? How would that make me feel? What would that be like? Are there ways that I can give that to myself? But because I haven't sat down to really have this conversation with myself, the thought cycle's been repeating for weeks. I'm lonely. You're surrounded by people. Next, I'm lonely. Well, that makes sense. And then I ignore it, right? But there's this little part of me that's been going, why? Why are you lonely? And I've been ignoring that voice. So this goes into so many levels, from the different thought fields to the fact that there are parts of you that want to understand you better that you might be ignoring, right? I want to take this one step deeper, and I want to explain something to you about taking too much responsibility for your circumstances. If you know me, you know I'm in the spiritual space. I'm in the energetic space. I'm in the manifestation space. I am sitting here telling you, you have power over your brain. You can control your life. You can change your life. Your circumstances are the product of your internal world that is manifesting into your physical reality. You can change anything you don't like. You've heard me scream it from the rooftops. That is how I think. That is how I feel. That is how I live, okay? We are in control of our reality. And I don't ever want you to forget that, because you need that power, and that's not a power that you should sacrifice. Too many people live in victim mindset because they don't realize that they have the power. So stepping into the mindset of, I create my reality, I am in control, I am the reason that I'm experiencing this negative manifestation, I'm the reason that I'm experiencing whatever it is, and here's how I can shift out of that, is a very beneficial tool when you're trying to change your life, change your reality, and get out of victim mindset. But it is not always a beneficial tool, because sometimes it puts too much pressure and too much responsibility on you. And so when you're crying, screaming, throwing up, and saying, I'm responsible for my reality, I should be able to change this. Girl, would you tell a screaming infant child that they should just figure it out? No, you would hold space for them and say, I'm so sorry that you're feeling this way. It's okay. I love you. You would comfort them. You'd see, what do they need? You would not be telling them that it's their fault they're screaming, okay? My first response to big, deep, dark, painful things is to try to shift out of them. I'm like, well, that's not pleasant. I don't want to experience that. What can I do to shift it? What did I do to become a vibrational match to experience this? And how can I stop, right? And then I start trying to fix things. But what that does is that tells my brain that A, I'm responsible, and B, that I can change it. When in reality, you cannot always change it in that moment, because you have to reach regulation and emotional balance. And a lot of the time, you have to experience emotional balance. You can't choose emotional balance, okay? So my challenge to you is to not get toxic with the I control my reality mindset, because it can become a very dangerous personality that you then have to unlearn, which is what I've done. So no matter what, even if you're just accepting the fact that you couldn't possibly accept this, and that's okay. It's okay that I can't accept this, right? My challenge to you, don't take too much responsibility. Pick a time frame. For the next 2 weeks, I am going to love, accept, and observe every thought that comes into my head instead of arguing with them. Promise yourself you're going to do it, and fucking do it. Love, accept, and observe every thought that comes into your head. And instead of thinking to yourself, I could change this, think, how would my life literally be fine or literally be perfect if I didn't change this? Because that's what acceptance is. You cannot accept your way to self-love if you are simultaneously trying to change yourself. So, when I tell you that the first step to self-love is to stop trying to fix yourself, I am not kidding, because you cannot accept yourself if you are constantly telling yourself that you are broken and that you are something to be fixed. And I will tell you, years ago when my therapist said that to me, I highly disagreed. It took me years to get to a place where I finally accepted and resonated with the facts that I was not something to be fixed. As someone with anxiety, depression, PTSD, someone who literally could not go outside by herself for years at a time, I looked my therapist in the eye and I said, no, there's a lot to fix. In fact, these are all the things that are broken. These are all the things that are not normal. These are all the things that need to change. These are all the emotions that I should not be experiencing. This is not okay, and this needs to change, and that needs to be fixed. She knew better than to argue with me, because I would not have been able to hear at the time that that's not broken. That is simply a part of my experience. So if you are in that place, the challenge becomes accepting the fact that you can't accept where you are. It's okay that you can't accept it. Instead of putting all the pressure on yourself to accept it, and then you start arguing with yourself and hating yourself because you're not good enough, because you can't figure out how to reach a place of acceptance. Now, you gotta try. You gotta try to hit that place of acceptance. But if you can't, stop the resistance, stop arguing with yourself, and just accept the fact that you can't hit that place of acceptance. That's like your default, it's your emergency backup plan. If you can't reach a place of acceptance, accept the fact that you can't, because that's what self-love is, okay? So your homework for the week is prioritize yourself first every morning. Start there. One thing that you can do for yourself before you do something else for other people. And if you're feeling frisky, do it again at night. Before you come home and prioritize whoever in your life needs to be prioritized, how can you prioritize yourself first, okay? These are also incredible physical actions that you can take to align yourself with not ignoring yourself, right? So prioritize yourself first thing in the morning, prioritize yourself first thing when you get home at the end of the day, or when you clock out if you work from home, whatever. The next thing you're going to do is more mental and energetic. It's the acceptance of your current state of mind and the observation of your current state of mind. Separate yourself from your mind. You are not your thoughts. Observe and accept them for what they are. Let them float down the stream. Let the thought bubbles float in one ear and out the other. Allow yourself to separate mind and body, whatever technique works for you, okay? So self-prioritization, self-acceptance, and self-observation. And your last step is don't fix it. Don't try to fix it. There's nothing to be fixed right now, okay? The only thing to fix is the fact that you don't accept yourself. Stop trying to fix it. Stop taking too much accountability for your circumstances. Now, I want to give you a little bit of comfort for all of my self-healing baddies out there who are addicted to the self-growth path. I'm not telling you that you're not going to take responsibility for your reality anymore, okay? You are. Don't worry. I will teach you more on this. For now, you're going to stop taking all that responsibility. For now, you're going to pause the need to fix and heal everything and get to the root of everything. You are just going to accept and know that you are not broken and you are nothing to be fixed. In the future, once we have reached a place of self-love and self-acceptance, then we will begin to look at the things that we want to shift and start shifting them because we have control over our reality, but we will be doing it from a place of balance and from a place of self-love. What's the definition of insanity? Doing the same thing over and over and over again, expecting different results. So let's say that you hate yourself, you continuously try to change yourself, and it's not working. Okay, well, you need to stop doing the same thing over and over again. And instead, let's pause, let's reset, let's start with loving ourselves, because the common theme is, right, I'll love myself when I lose 10 pounds. I'll love myself when I can stop beating myself up. I'll love myself when I stop lashing out. I'll love myself when, stop it. No, you're going to love yourself right now. You're not going to love yourself when, you're going to love yourself right now. That's like the I'll be happy when. Anything that you think of, I'll love myself when. When will you love yourself? Tell me right now. You'll love yourself when you what? It's not going to happen. You are not going to love yourself when you do that. In fact, you probably won't even be able to do that until you love yourself. Sorry. It's just the truth of the matter. When will you be happy? I'll be happy when I get that raise, when I get that promotion, when I lose those 10 pounds, when I get that vacation. No, you won't. Because once you do that, once you achieve that, once you get that, your brain will replace the when. I'll be happy when I get the next promotion. I'll be happy when the weekend comes. No, we're done with that. We are done replacing the when, and we're going to start just being in the now, okay? So you're not going to love yourself when, you're going to love yourself now. And the best way to do that is to accept and observe. You are not something to be fixed, and you're not going to try to fix it. Once you accept and observe and fully love, then we will, from a balanced, regulated place, start shifting the things that we don't seem to think are very balanced or very aligned with our desired reality. Something I started doing when I'm experiencing negative emotions, because that for me was the hardest part of the acceptance, was accepting and loving myself through negative emotions. I'm better than this, or I shouldn't have to feel this way, or this isn't aligned with my desired reality. I'm like, okay, what I started doing is I started saying, oh, well, of course you're sad. Like, who wouldn't be sad under these circumstances? Anyone would be sad. It makes total sense because X, Y, Z. And you know what else? How cool is it that I have the ability to experience sadness right now? Because that means that I have the ability to experience a whole broad spectrum of emotion. And oh my God, wait, how cool is it that like I'm on Earth right now having a human experience, and part of that experience is experiencing negative emotion. I literally came here to do that. How cool that I can do that, because what's on the other side of sadness is happiness or gratitude. The fact that I can experience sadness on this right now means that I actually really care about this. And how cool is it that I have stuff that I care this deeply about right now? And it really started putting things into a completely different perspective. Of course I'm angry right now. And how cool is it that I can experience anger? And how cool is it that like I'm on Earth having that experience, and that's part of why I came here, and that I care so deeply about something that I have the ability to get this mad about it. Like, how fucking awesome is that? And when I started looking at it from that perspective, that really helped me hit a better place of alignment with my emotions, even the ones that I truly just didn't want to fucking accept. So that's where we're starting. That's your homework for the next 2 weeks. You are going to observe and accept everything. You're going to validate all of it, no matter how much you hate it. And if you really cannot get to a place of acceptance around it, you are instead going to simply accept the fact that you cannot accept it. And you're just going to keep fucking validating. In tandem with that, you are going to remember that there's nothing to shift out of and there's nothing to fix. This is just the perfect human experience, and you're doing it right. You're doing it right. Once we hit a deeper place of self-love, we will go deeper into how to shift things from a balanced place. But these are our step ones. There's nothing to change right now. There's a channel on YouTube that I watch sometimes called Unlock Your Life. And the woman in the recordings said in one of the videos, there's nothing about you that needs to be changed other than the way that you see yourself. So starting to accept yourself is the number one way to change how you see yourself and align with self-love and acceptance. You're going to commit to this for 2 weeks. You are also going to prioritize yourself once morning and night, or less if that's better, or more if that's better. Don't overdo it. And one question that you can ask yourself before you do anything is my favorite question. Would that be self-love right now? Someone says, hey, you want to go see a movie with me tonight? Ask yourself, would that be self-love right now? Or what would be self-love right now? Actually, I really just want to take a shower and lay down. Congratulations, you just aligned with self-love instead of people-pleasing. Maybe you had a long day at work and you're going to come home, you're going to cook food, you walk in the door, the dog wants food, you feed the dog, you're stressed out, there's so much going on, you forgot to take off your shoes, now you got to do that. There's still like stuff that needs to be picked up and you got to take a fucking shower and you still have to make dinner and you're like, pause. What would be self-love right now? Oh, self-love would just be like fucking the meal plan and just DoorDash something right now because I'm exhausted and I really need to prioritize picking up the living room and taking a shower. Or maybe self-love is just DoorDashing something and getting into bed, picking up the living room tomorrow, right? So That's a great question you can ask yourself. What would be self-love right now? That's how I make all my decisions. It works really well. Thank you so, so, so much for listening. As you probably already know, I'm your host, Danielle Rose, highly intuitive psychic, Reiki practitioner, and your guide for mental, emotional, and energetic healing. Thank you for listening to the Centered Soul podcast. Make sure you visit my website, www.thecenteredsoulco.com, and request a podcast if you have a specific topic that you would like me to cover. You can also email me at daniellerose@thecenteredsoulco.com and let me know of any specific questions that you have. Comment on this episode a purple heart if you made it all the way to the end. I would love, love, love to know who made it all the way to the end. And I want you to add a pineapple emoji if you are going to commit to the 2-week challenge that I gave you. As always, thank you so much for listening. Please like, follow, subscribe, rate the podcast. It helps so, so, so much, whatever platform you are on. And I will see you again next week. I hope that this episode brought you one step closer to achieving a centered soul.